Okay, I believe we're recording. Okay. Okay. We'll try to do
Take a
close.
straight face, Liv.
Okay.
I like that.
All right. We're gonna do a laughing. If you want to, you can close your eyes. So closing your eyes, and for anybody that's listening, if you want to laugh or close your eyes, whatever you feel called to. And connecting with your breath. And finding your breath in your lower abdomen. And even seeing it visually in your belly and your abdomen. Feeling it like chi, energy, life force, vitality. And notice that it's comprised of earth energy and also cosmic energy. And allow it to swirl. And while that's happening, then notice from your, particularly from your tailbone, notice that there are these roots that grow out, connecting with Gaia, Mother Earth. Almost as if we were called together by the earth. That's what it feels like. So allowing that earth energy to connect with your body's roots. And while that's happening, then notice that your ancient ancestors are behind you. This, like a, almost like, like you're feeling yourself physically connected to your ancient ancestors. And experience that energetically, if you will. Allow that to strengthen you spiritually. Know that they're also here to support your purpose. And you might notice that they're also the stars. Our ancient ancestors are connected to the stars. Our ancient ancestors are the stars. And so bring your awareness into your heart now, please. And feel your heart like the sun. It gets radiant, it's so strong. And our hearts are connected with each other. and feel like our hearts here, that our hearts are connected. There's like these rays of light that connect our suns, our hearts that are suns to each other around the earth. And as all of us that are here unite our hearts in this way, it also sends out that kind of web of connectivity, connecting from the heart stream around the earth, strengthening the heart of the earth, strengthening the heart of humanity. Feeling the beauty of connectivity. What was that? Did you hear that?
Yeah.
I think that's the end. That's just totally the energy of connecting.
I know, did you hear what just happened here?
What just happened? What was that?
My housemate and my brother's little boy came rushing into the hallway, playing some really weird, erratic music, and going, la, 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 like in the middle of the meditation. And so I'm so sorry if somebody got, but anyway, that seems to be the energy.
That's the totally the energy.
I know.
I'm just slow with it. Yeah. Okay, I did my part now. Anybody else can take it.
I was anticipating a lot of laughter. So I'm here for it.
Yeah. Now you're the facilitator, Natalie.
Just in case. Internet.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, really, anybody who feels called to share. I know we were talking just a tiny bit before we started recording, and this really does feel like the spirit of us all connecting. And maybe this is part of what spirit is showing with us, our hearts connecting, is like there's a lot of lightness.
Mm.
You
Yes.
know? There's a lot of lightness in our hearts. And
Yeah.
that's a beautiful thing.
Sorry, I'm not supposed to be interrupting. I apologize. This is so rude. I'm so sorry. I just got excited. I just got excited when you said that, because I think one of the reasons the theme of humor is coming up is because I got a little slight download about humor yesterday, because I was envisioning this scenario of something quite unpleasant happening and how I would deal with it. And one of the things was that we now have to wear face masks in public transport. And I was like, well, I don't want to be forced to do anything, you know, like that's just my nature. And I thought, okay, what would happen if I would end up in jail because I'm refusing to follow orders? And I was thinking, how would I deal with that? Would I be in fear in that jail, or would I? And all that came to me was humor. You know, that you could see, no matter where you find yourself in at any point in time, you know, the only reason we associate a prison with something really unpleasant is because we've been programmed that. But at the end of the day, you're still a spirit in space, and you happen to be surrounded by a few walls, but that shouldn't change anything, you know. And that realization and that lightness that comes with that gave me a lot of laughter, basically. So I thought, okay, this is how we can deal with a lot of things.
I like what you just said there, the fact that you can, no matter where you are, because you can be in a mental prison, and I have been in past. So, you know, no matter where you are, it's about seeing and hopefully getting out of any situation, about your perception and how you see it. So it's very interesting that you said that. It's true. You can take it with humor, or you can go the opposite end of the scale and be, you know, somewhere dark with it. It depends obviously where you are, but that's amazing that yeah, I just really love that you just said that. It doesn't matter where you are on this earth, it's about choosing it and choosing lightness, let's say.
Yeah, I also want to add, like, actually when there is humor or like comedy or something. We're really using our imagination also. And it's like really like this creation imagination energy and like play and playfulness. And I just feel that's something that's so important right now. So yeah, I can feel why this is coming up too. Like
Amma, how
we
is it
just
in
need to
Ghana?
play more.
How is it? How is it in Ghana right now?
Um, well, I think there are a lot of different realities. Well, actually, everywhere in the world, but also here in Ghana. Um, I'm in a house with a huge garden, and I'm actually not really leaving this place here because I'm in this own nature bubble here. So I also don't really know how it is everywhere else. But when I go to buy stuff, yeah, people are wearing masks, but not everyone. And like, I don't know, I just have the feeling the way how people are interacting and everything, it's still very human and social and laughing. And I don't know, it's not a lot of things changed. If you go to the big city, it's a little bit more quiet, but then at the same time, I don't know, there was a lockdown for 3 weeks here, but they lifted it again. And then like life went on again in a way. So it's a bit weird in a way. It's part of it is like going with it, like with the masks and with the staying home and everything, and then the other part is just going on. You know, life here. Everyone lives. A lot of people live outside, live together. Like it's not really possible to do all the measurements, but like the events and everything that canceled, like the funerals and the church processions. Ooh.
Happens when you live in a part of London. They've actually lifted our lockdown slightly now, where we were told to stay at home. They're now saying that you can go outside as many times as you like. You're only allowed to go outside once, and everybody's taking it on their own avenue. There's a lot more people out, which is great. But then they're saying, you know, I think our slogan over here is "Stay alert." A lot of people are confused by that because there's many connotations how you can take that. So apologies, there's a lot more people around.
Yeah. They said stay alert, Junior, that's what you're saying?
Yeah, before they're giving us slogans. So before it was stay at home. So you were not allowed to leave. You're allowed to leave once for exercise. And at the humor of that, there were very many memes on the internet that made me laugh at people calling the police, saying she's out for her second walk. And now they're saying that you can go out and you're free and you can drive to spaces. So it's very different, and I love hearing it. You know, I'd love to hear everybody's take on it. So, Natalie, you know, how was it for you?
Yeah,
What was it like for you? You know,
I think for myself, I haven't necessarily felt the impact of the isolation. I was actually just having a chat with my friend today, and we were both talking about how our lifestyles are like a quarantine lifestyles. Like I tend to work in quietness alone. Like the projects I work on are like very personal projects, and there's less interacting with people. So when people tell me that this is really affecting me, I sometimes question, is there something wrong with my lifestyle right now? Because it's not, I feel fine. Like to be fair, like it's, yeah, I think I'm quite a reflective, quiet and introspective person. So yeah, the quarantine hasn't really impacted me much. But at the same time, like I've been going out on the streets and I've been interviewing different people and capturing stories of what kind of experiences have they had. And what I find is that people are telling me that they feel really grateful for the relationships they have, whether it's with their friends or family. They have more free time. They feel like they have more headspace. And some of them tell me they don't want to go back to normality. Like they feel like there's a sense of headspace and quietness. And yeah, so that's how it's been here in Sydney for myself. Yeah.
How about you, Natalie?
Well, it's funny because I can relate to that a lot. My sister was teasing me. She's like, "Oh, it's like nothing really has changed that much for you." I'm like, "No, like it really hasn't." The only thing is that there was a point in time where we couldn't go to the beach, which like that was hard for me because I love going to the ocean. Like even though it was really cold here, like freezing cold, I still love going to the ocean even in the dead of winter, um, just because of my connection. But it's funny because I'm acutely aware of how different my experience is to other people. I know like there's like the whole spectrum everywhere, you know, like Amma, you were saying. Um, and it's, yeah, there's something, I had that moment of questioning, like, is there something wrong? No, there's nothing wrong. I was like, the way I live my life is all good. It's exactly the way that I need to live it. So I'm not even gonna go into that. But it's interesting because I feel like it's prepared me too, you know? Like I realized that all the things that I've gone through has prepared me to like for this moment to be able to show up in the way that I am, and I really like it. I love the pause. I love that I feel like people are getting more space to just drop in, which is something that I've been wanting. Like there's some uncomfortable when you're like how do I explain this? I notice that I get uncomfortable when I'm in spaces where I feel that there's only so deep we can go. And what I'm feeling now is that people are, because of it's such a shift in so many people's realities, it's forcing them to go deeper than they may have been able to go before. It's funny because my sister and I, we have bikes, and we were going for a bike ride the other day, and we're riding our bikes through the neighborhood, and there's people outside with their families, and everyone's waving, and I'm there riding my bike. I'm like, oh, this is my dream. Like everyone's waving and so friendly. And I just kept giggling the entire bike ride because it's, you know, that's not, you know, this is the area where I am right now is where I grew up. And like maybe when I was younger, people were more interactive with neighbors and stuff like that. But I would say in the past like 20 years, it hasn't been like that. And so being able to like, even though we have this like, you know, these restrictions that are in place for, you know, public safety, there's ways that I find that humans innately want to connect and will find different ways to do so, you know? Like I'm used to having the experience of riding my bike through a neighborhood and no one looking at me. And now I'm riding, I'm like, hey.
I definitely think, yeah, to say what you said, Natalie, more people are paying attention. I don't know what it is, especially in London, we get the rap of being quite unfriendly to different parts of the UK. And they will say in the north of the UK, everybody's really friendly. You come down to London and we're quite driven. We don't really speak to you. Our heads are down. So it's nice that people are looking up, or where we're trying to stay apart from everybody. We're sort of weaving through the roads, but still taking account and saying, oh, hi. But I think we've all lived in our own bubbles. And I can speak for that as well. Even in the industry that I'm at, teaching yoga and delivering sound and healing, still been maybe a bit of a what do you call it? I wouldn't say a struggle, but more of a driven attitude, trying to still achieve and work hard and do as much as I can. But then, you know, this space to stop is granted, and I don't think we'll get it for a very long time, if ever, again. That's made people, I think, that's why I love this call, connect in a different way, or making people slow down and have time to go in and to think about what they want to do. It's even made me shift what I want to do if we go back, when we go back. How I want to proceed now. Do I want to work crazy 6-7 days a week? Maybe not. Maybe change gears and go after what I really want to do. So it's really given me that time and space, which I'm thankful for. So that's why I say to people, I've loved this time. You know, I've had a few people jump down my throat online. Everyone wants to share their opinion, which I get, and I welcome it. You know, I'm not above my ego to listen, but then a lot of people want to tell me what's good for me. I'm like, I don't need you to. Thank you, but no thank you. And a lot of people do that, whether it's through a fear of theirs or they're trying to get me to see their way. I see all opinions, but then I take it and then I form my own, and some people can't handle that. To go slightly off topic, I sort of posted there was a pandemic video going around, and some people saying, it's not factual. Fair enough. I took bits from it, I listened, and a good old friend of mine sort of jumped down my throat about how I'm irresponsible, how I'm likening to not putting things out there. But I said, I said it's very open. You can take from it what you want. I'm not telling you what to feel or how to think. This is just my opinion. Take it or leave it, And they were just trying to really dig at me. And I was like, you know what? Just going back at them like, okay, thank you. So you're getting a lot of that. There's a lot of fear that I felt in the very early beginning stages of the energy around the world. So, it's very interesting this time. It's really great in a weird way. That can make sense.
Seems like our reality is defined by our frequency at the moment. So some have an amazing time and others are having an absolutely horrible time. But it feels like it's a very fourth dimensional thing where there's so many realities playing out simultaneously. And so Facebook is like a melting pot for all these different realities. And so no one will ever be right, no one will ever be wrong, because it's totally your rabbit hole that you're in when you're trying to share it. And, at one point you've got to ask yourself, do I really need to keep discussing with people? Because all we're doing is showing our own reality to someone else. And that is what it is.
Seems
Yeah.
like, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's interesting because I noticed like how like you were just saying, Christiana, how there's a different like realities and the depending on like how you're vibrating, really, like your frequency. I noticed for me, like if I hear the TV on and there's like mainstream media, for example, I'll check in with my body to see what it feels like, and my body is immediately like, no, that's okay. And at first I would be like, can you turn that off? And now I'm like, no, that's the reality you want to exist in. Cool. I'm not going to exist in that. I can go in another space. And so like I had to shift that within myself of that, like trying to control what was happening in my area, and really like, I feel like so many people, like something that helps to anchor is using discernment and being okay for other people having different realities. Like that's been my like medicine of learning, that it's okay if the people that I'm with don't have the same reality that I'm existing in. I don't need to change them. And I mean, they're not going to be able to change my reality. I already know that anyways, but also like, and it's okay, that like difference, I think there's something beautiful about that of different difference existing without trying to like, I don't know what that word is, but trying to change everyone into the same thing,
The mind can't cope with it anyway. It's too much. There's too many realities happening, and it's a real recipe for disaster and mental illness if you're going into that zone. So again, like being invited back into the heart zone and surrendering into whatever it is, and just being fully conscious with your own reality that you're in at that moment, without getting cerebral about it. Because what I've been noticing a lot is, and I've now termed it, left brain spirituality. Yeah, so it's like you see these people on Facebook and it's very cerebral, a very cerebral way of spiritually explaining things, and that's a real trap, I think. Yeah, anyway, I think
I also like, oh, sorry.
You want?
Yeah, I just wanted to share that I also really feel a difference personally, like if I'm reading news, or like sometimes even reading comments or stuff, or if I'm just leaving it a bit, because it enables me to live more in the moment too. And before, Natalie was also saying that she feels that people are going deeper in a way, like, yeah, slowing down a bit. And for me, it reminds me a lot about the rhythm of the earth, because when I tune in with the earth, like the way how she breathes is really slowly in a way. And I like in one way or the other, it feels like the world is tuning into that rhythm. And for me personally, sometimes I even don't know which day it is anymore. Like time and space is, I don't know, disappearing in a way. And I have the feeling that it's quite important to like just tune in to that and to be okay with that too. To like, yeah, because even for me, sometimes it feels a bit weird, and it's like it as if it can be like that, or that I need to like go on again in that other rhythm that we're used to. But I really feel actually it's important to just like let ourselves go into that too.
I've been,
Liv, you were going to say something.
yeah, I've been experiencing, it's been like, it's been so surreal to all the, it's similar to what you're talking about, Christiana, like all the, like the dimensional, I don't, I don't know, people break down like the different dimensions, 4D, 5D and all that. I don't experience it like that exactly, but what I experience is that there's this, like this really, really, really beautiful reality that's trying to land in this one that people talk about, this like, global awakening or whatever that's happening. And I think it seems like it's what everybody is speaking to also. And so it's like, it's intense also to me to experience that other like so-called 3D and the whole, like the Bill Gates, like the, wanting to put the chip in and all these things. And the way I'll experience it spiritually too, is that it is like, I guess you could say like density trying to like bear in or something like that. And so I feel, I feel it all simultaneously. And I've done, I guess research. It's also like the energies that I've encountered around the planet. I realize from the like the assignments that the Kontomble have had me on in these different places. I realized this morning, I was like thinking these energies, these oppositional energies that we've encountered in these different places, it was all the same energy. It was all the same energy. It's all the same energy that tries to keep people in the like the third dimension, or thinking that there's not more than this. And that's what I realized. I was like, oh my God, it's all the same energy, and it's all the same energy that people are opening their eyes to now on the planet, if you catch my drift. It's like, you feel me, Natalie, especially, right? Because we've been in all of these places together, and I'm like, oh my God, it was the same. And I thought it was different. I thought it was different oppositional energy in Ireland and in Denmark and in Mongolia and in all these places and throughout the States and these different ceremonies. And I was like, oh my God, it's been the same energy. I just didn't know. I didn't realize. And it's the energy that's like been, basically like trying to into the earth for a long time. And the whole thing that like divides and conquers and stuff. And it's like, no, you're masculine, you're feminine, and this is what a woman is like, and this is what a man is like. And then, and then these beings come in and they're like, no, I'm not any gender. It's like the there's always souls that come in that are like here to help us like come out of our shackles. The purpose is for us to evolve, So I was realizing that this morning, that it was like, oh my God, it's been the same energy. And I know you feel me, Natalie, especially like where I'm streaming from, because you've been with me in these places.
Yeah.
And it's wild too, because the other aspect that's coming in now, and like people are, I've talked about this recently, but at the beginning of 2020, like Spirit, they don't tell me so many things like this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. But for some reason, they were saying at the beginning, like this is going to be the time that it's much more common for people to speak openly about Spirit. You're going to hear this more and more and more. And I didn't understand, like, why now? What's up with now? And then it feels like any interview, any this, I feel like I'm hearing people talk about Spirit all the time. And I'm like, was this happening? And I just didn't catch it before. Like, is everybody talking about Spirit? Like, what's happening right now? And it feels like everybody's like, oh, and these are the beings that I'm with. These are the beings that I'm with, and I'm with, and they can break down these like star beings, like dang. And then simultaneously there's these there's the whole like disclosure community or whatever and all of that, and I haven't had a particular perspective about it. I'm like, okay, cool, yeah, UFOs are real. Like that's not a stretch. My grandma knew that. Like my grandma talked to my mom about that. My grandma was like, that's what my mom would say, My grandma, like she was in the desert, She would tell my mom about UFOs. So that's not a stretch for me. Like, okay, cool, yeah. And then, yeah, there are these different star beings, but I didn't get like, because the Kontomble, they have me so in this earth plane working with the earth. And so I wasn't getting it yet. Like, I don't understand why is that relevant to here now? I just didn't get it yet. I didn't get it. And so it was almost like these different parts. And now all of a sudden I'm like, oh, good, because it's all about this. It's about this. And that's why. And I know, Christiana, you know what I'm talking about because you know it much better than I do. I only get what I like pick up, from these.
Well, what I'm interested to hear is what this consciousness that you described, that you see in all the different places on the planet, and it's the same kind of consciousness, or maybe the consciousness is not the right word, but it's an energy that I sometimes describe as an anti-life energy or an opposing consciousness.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts about what it is, what this consciousness is and where it comes from?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's the way I experience it, is anti-life and anti-consciousness, and it's energies that's been like outright trying to shut my work with the Kontomble down in these different places. And now that there are these different people making interviews and talking about their experiences, and I listen to them, I'm like, oh my God, we've all been experiencing the same thing. Mm-hmm. And why they were saying, we're getting programmed by these like certain kinds of religious programs and everything, that it's like, it's the devil's work, to talk to spirit, whatever. Like when I was first telling my mom about when I started following my path, my mom thought I was going to go to hell. She's probably going to listen to this, and I'm like, I love you, Mom. That's true. She did for a while. She thought I was going to go to hell, and we had a breakthrough and everything, but it's like the way we've been so conditioned to believe. And then when traveling to different places, you realize like, oh, this is just like a modern thing. Oh, there's cultures all over the earth that connect with spirit. So what happened? Mm-hmm. What happened? If there's cultures, it's not like that was the normal thing. That was like the normal way. That's how we were as humans, connected to the other world, connected to other realms, tending to our ancestors. Like there's nothing radical about that. That was just how life was and still is for a lot of people on the earth. Like rituals, ceremony, these things of tending to that place where we come from, tending to life. Mm-hmm. And I do experience it like that, Christiana, that it does. It's like, yeah, you can look at it like that. What feeds life and what makes it go, the opposite way. Mm-hmm. It's like what makes your spirit grow and your soul expand, and then how we're conditioned societally to, or through in our society and modern society to, that it's like normalized through all these television programs to just like judge and criticize people's expression. Mm-hmm. That's what people do. So they're like have these singing shows or whatever, they're expressing in some ways, and that's the norm. And then that's like, through the magazines and everything is just like you just judge and criticize. Mm-hmm. But if you're sensitive and you actually feel what the energy of judgment, no matter if we're judging ourselves or somebody else, it eats life, it eats energy. Judgment, criticism, if you're a child and the parent does that, it can break down, and then your shoulders start caving in and all of that. And so what is the energy that does that? And then what's the other energy that, grows our being? And, can learn. I've found it a really, really helpful practice to just watch that, or if we're coming on the line and we're like, oh, ha, 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 ha. Just like, joyous, present, joy. And all of a sudden you're like, you're at your spirit is buoyant, I'm getting really ignited by connecting with you. I'm like, and then who else wants to share?
You know what you were saying, Liv, about this duality, and I'm sorry if I talk too much, just interrupt me. But there's a natural duality that we see on Gaia, just natural dark and light, and it's just this flow. But it sometimes feels that this anti-life energy is outside of that. And that's what I find peculiar, because it's obviously then not natural, because we don't see nature behave that way. So it must be artificial. And then I wonder, okay, is there some kind of artificial energy that has penetrated onto the planet, like an artificial technology that's doing this? And I'm not just asking, not just asking you, Liv, but just anyone, like, do you have any insights about that?
I mean, it does feel that way. Like whenever I tune into this energy that Liv's talking about, that we've encountered many times, it feels like, even to take it a step further of anti-life, it feels like anti-love, because you can have that, what you were talking about, that natural duality. Life and death is a primordial force that exists on Gaia. It is you can look at the light and shadow. Those are things that exist to balance one another. There's that and it comes in a full spectrum. So it's it exists in the whole way, and this energy feels the more we've encountered it, when I tune into what it feels like anything that blocks you from experiencing love, which is the full, the true essence of our beings comes from love. As woo-woo as that sounds, it really is the true essence is love. And anything that takes you away from that or blocks that or anything like that indicates for me, I'm okay, when I look at myself when I'm not fully in love, not, you know what I mean by that, being in a place of love, that's my indicator of oh, there's some stuff here I need to tend to, I need to clear some things out of my field, and whenever I feel into the energy, I mean, I was working with a practitioner and clearing, and in my mind's eye can see that it's something that came from another planet. It's not natural to Gaia. And speaking to a lot of people who have different perspectives and more knowledge and what have you, that like seems to be the common thread, that this is something that like Gaia has always been this refuge. It was a place, like a paradise, and that was what Gaia was supposed to be for not just humans, but like for everyone, you know, in the whole universe. And then the opposing energy came in and sabotaged that. And that's why we've been in this cycle for a very long time, like past what written history shows us, because written history doesn't tell us the whole history. Written history is written by the conqueror. And so there's like, I get chills even just saying that. But, you know, that opposing energy has been here for so long, harvesting that life force, that love, that pure essence. And now Gaia is like, fuck this. I'm sorry, I'm gonna curse, but fuck this, like enough is enough. And like, I'm reclaiming myself. And in Gaia reclaiming herself, she called in all her children, all her ancient ones. And she, you get your asses back here because we need support. And I can't do this by myself. And then I feel like that's what we're in the midst of right now, is that like, you know.
I love what you just said, Natalie, because I've been, you know, you can go down the rabbit hole conspiracies, but I've been tuning in. There's a documentary on Netflix called The Unacknowledged, and there's loads of stuff I think in our history that is missing, and I wonder why it's missing, or what's happened, and things that are not clear. And it's very interesting to know that there are things that we maybe have to rediscover, or there's things that we just have to connect back to. I think as you said, the earth is calling it. It's time, and it, you know, there's no, if you're, because I believe in certain things and go down the road of tarot, astrology, you know, timings. That it had to be now. You know, it couldn't be last year. It couldn't be next year. There's certain times, and you know, it's all this information. You know, where we call it ancestors. I call it source. Grabbing that and just trying to do what I can do to assist and aid and help in any form, in any shape. But as you said, Liv, it's like a great reawakening. Everyone is, you know, it's always been there. The underlying is spirit, even for those who claim they're not spiritual or don't believe in anything. It's there for them, I believe. But now it's the people going to. So, you know, it's great to see more people, whether they're acknowledging or whether they're coming forward and speaking more about it. I think it's really going in a step in the right direction. Yeah, some things had to break down. That is natural. Things have to break down to rebuild, but we want to rebuild it in the right way. So I think things are shifting in a good way, and there is this sort of energy exchange, and it had to happen. But going forward, we'll see what this, I think, is a test for us in the sense that what we do going forward from now. So it's really interesting to see where we're going to go from this space of connectivity and growth and learning and calling in, and seeing hopefully where we can go for the future, because we may need it. You know.
Yeah, in what you're saying, I think it's really important that people understand that they have a say in this, because I think there's so many people who are used to just listen to what is being told, or like to follow, like, you know, a bit in a passive way. And I think it is true where, I mean, I believe it's true, we're going to a different world in a way, but I also believe it's really important that people stand up for it in a way, because otherwise, you know, other things can happen too. It's just like, it's really important that people understand they also have power in a way. And like, sometimes it feels that people, that they forgot that actually we are giving power to the ones that are in power. I mean, that we have a say in it too. And I also believe things are shifting and stuff, but I also believe like that, like a bigger mass of people, I believe they're waking up, if you want to call it like that. But I also believe there's a lot of different information going on, and like a lot of the heads the whole time. And because of that, I think a lot of people don't really know anymore, like what's true for me, or what's like the things that are possible, or where is my power. So I think that's why it's so important to really tune in with intuition, or like your heart. And what I said before, like not listening too much to everything and everyone, but really seeing like, what do I actually hear, like really tuning into that. Yeah.
I think, yeah. Sorry, were you going to say something? I was just wanting to go on from what Natalie said about self-love. And whenever I'm feeling heavy, then for me, it's always about checking in with myself and working on, okay, how can I transition this heavy energy into lightness? What can I do in my day-to-day life which will help make me feel light? And humor is one very important tool that I use. Humor alongside going for a run, or doing like capoeira out on the grass. So I think so whenever I do feel heavy, for me it's always about taking responsibility for that energy, and understanding that it's my own, and learning how to transmute that into something that can also contribute, that is effective for me as medicine, but also how can I then share it to the public, you know, as something that they could resonate with. So yeah.
Beautiful.
Amma, I really liked what you said about that they need our energy. I don't know if you've heard of the term preemptive programming, but basically all these sort of not so very nice scenarios that happen, they're chosen by the masses. We do that because we're being deceived into believing that's good for us. But as part of universal law, we have to consent. So they they're actually not forcing anything onto people. The people choose this themselves. And when they realize that, we can turn that whole scenario around, obviously, and go create a reality that's based on the natural laws.
And I think, as you were saying, is just to reclaim our power. A lot of people feel powerless, and when you feel powerless, you don't spring into action or do. You either just sit down and just lay down and take it because that's you believe. And stepping forward and reclaiming power, knowing how much you have, is really, I think, is a great thing to help people, or people slowly start to come back to, because we all have it, you know. It's just over time, I think we've lost a little bit, or we feel not so confident in it, so it's not as strong as it should be for some. So I think people are stepping forward now and reclaiming and taking back what is theirs, because it is.
Okay, I guess that's my turn. Well, I did have a question about that, because my like the reason why a lot of times when I come onto Instagram or share these messages too, like I'll get messages from spirit and they'll tell me, you know, people are afraid, people feel, you know, and then sometimes in more extreme cases they'll say like people feel that everything is futile and they want to take their life. You know, sometimes I'll get more intense messages like that, and so I'm just like being an instrument of what they're asking me to share, because it's what people aren't saying, but I can sense it, and then spirit will ask me to say these things through messages. But you know, obviously you all are, you know, it's clear that you all have really strong hearts and you know, courageous and all of that. But for those that don't know, like, what does it feel like to be in your voice, or in your, like, how do you do that? How do you know that your life does matter? That, you know, like, what would you suggest maybe, Junior, like, what, from what you're saying too, like, we do. And in my like personal journey, I've needed to like do so much clearing and healing and reclamation of soul energy and all of that to actually, and it's a work in progress each week. And so how do people know that about themselves, or how do they like get their voice back, you know, actually get their vocal cords, you know?
I mean, it's such a personal journey for some. I always believe it's when people are ready, because say that coming into this world of whatever or energy, I've always been a part of it. I've always felt a part of it. You know, there's in my younger years, I sort of, you know, I guess programmed into the world, living as you should do by rules. But what's happened for some, maybe if you look at your life or soul plan, it's your lessons that you learn, the things that, you know, I always never felt a part of the world. Just speaking on my personal experience, I'm a black man, I'm a black gay man. I've had so many things, and I've never felt something that I never felt I fitted when I was younger, especially in my family unit and stuff. I always felt different. And for me, maybe that was a clear sign. And for some, again, I go into the world of tarot and things like that. And I'm a Scorpio, which sort of means about the transformation, the death and the life and the rebirth. And I've had to go through that. I tell people, I'm like, it's not easy. I've gone through dark times when I did want to kill myself, when I didn't want to be a part of this. And coming out of that, it's, I mean, well, I think you can never always come out of it. It's a flow and peak, and you can always go back in. But helping me going through that to see my differences has helped me think, you know, I don't want to be part of the norm. I don't want to be normal. I want to do what I want when I want, and I don't want anybody to tell me that I can't. Within, of course, they say boundaries and reasons. So I think everybody has a little bit of onus to come to it by themselves, a little impetus to come to it at a certain point. I always sometimes feel that some people never will. Again, it may be their soul and life journey, not to this time, but a lot of people do come out of it or do start to see themselves, and that's helped me. And I kind of think, and I've been spurred on by whoever we call it, whether it's ancestors, whether it's guides, whether it's channeling, to help others in the work that I do. So it's really, really, for me, a great experience. But again, I do say people, I will say to my friend, it's not easy. Do I want to imagine if I could live in ignorance and bliss. I do say that sometimes because it's to be aware is sometimes not always easy, but nothing I believe in life is easy. You know, you have to work towards some things, and that for me has helped. So the medicine, I think a lot of it, a lot of it is coming to it at your own pace, but then finding people to connect to. You know, like even like this bridge right now is just amazing that we're connecting to so many. And from that, our connection can then spread almost in a good way, like a virus, you know, and a way to then start the space to heal. So it is a lot. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going. Sorry if I'm talking too much. Anybody?
Oh, no,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
For me
It's beautiful.
also,
Please.
yeah, for me personal, I've always been like a people pleaser, or like really wanted that other people love me and stuff, and having a lot of difficulties with criticism. And it's still a journey actually, like to let my voice out. Yeah, it's still a fear that's there sometimes, like fear of being judged, or like what other people would think of me or something. But it's shifting a little bit, or it's changing now, and it's actually changing because of my connection with spirit. Because for me, how can I say that? Like, the more I connect with my ancestors and with spirit, the more I understand I'm not alone. And so that also means the messages I'm sharing or the things I'm saying, they're not from myself. And so that's already a huge support or something. But then sometimes there are also just messages coming through that are just like, I just feel like I need to share them. And also, like, this time on earth, there's no time anymore to like think about what other people would think about what I'm saying, or like, I mean, in the end we're all gonna die. Like, and it's like, what do you like, what do you want? And yeah, I also believe, yeah, it's a process, and it's a timing maybe. But for me personally, it really helps to connect deeper with myself, with my intuition, with spirit, with my ancestors, because it gives me a certain type of, yeah, power or sovereignty, or how do you say that in English? And yeah, it's just I think for me it's this commitment to spirit and this commitment to tuning in with myself, because there's so much distraction. And before I always was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, but then other things come in, or I'm not really trying to like tap into it. I think I didn't believe in the beginning even that like having this connection would help me to be more in my power and speak out, but it really does. It really helps. So yeah.
Yeah, I find for myself it's an everyday practice to continue to openly speak what I feel, and it takes a level of courage, because there's always that self-criticism and judgment, and the thought of what people may think, and whether it will get much reception. And sometimes I feel more inclined to just not be forceful with my sharing, and be more just when I feel that urge and that strong feeling, that's when I do share. And other times I do catch myself just sharing it for the sake of it. And I feel like it's yeah, it comes down to just valuing myself more, and understanding that that it's not always about it's just you know what I mean, like kind of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just to say what Amma said and then go back to Liv, a good way to get back to power is intuition. You know, I trust mine religiously or solely or wholly, because it for me it's not let me down. I trust mine, you know, and I think that's where we've been led to not trust. And that's the first sort of thing against you. They're telling you not to trust yourself. I'm like, that's madness to me because I'm in this body. But of course, you know, it's in your universe. But of course, going back to what Natalie said, is finding the space for love, and you know, different variations of love. Love, not me like loving another person, but loving you all, loving Earth, loving family, loving things, loving opportunities, those type of things. So having the link, but trusting your intuition for me is paramount for me. Don't know about you guys, but I'm sure.
Interesting that you mentioned that about intuition, because a lot of the time I will read something or see something on a video, and then I will intuitively know whether that's true or not. And I'll, for instance, share it on social media, and people ask me, where's your evidence to back this up? Well, fair enough to have a question like that, fair enough. And I will try to find the evidence, but you know, I feel a balance is really called for, you know, that it's not just a scientific backup, but we really have a very beautiful intuitive instrument with which we can separate the wheat from the chaff as well.
Oh, I love that. Just not science, because we get that a lot. Find me the science. Find me the science. For me, science is man-made. Some things
It is.
some things are not man-made. Some things come in that is above us. Some things we don't need to know. I don't need the science to back it up because I feel it. It's hard to then translate it to people who are not feeling it, can call me crazy and wacky. Okay. But it's very interesting. I love it though, because they're always like, oh, find me the science. This guy said this. It's just an opinion. I've got a friend who also says that. It's someone's opinion, and I get it, and there's facts, but there's some things that are a little bit even beyond our comprehension that we have to find out in a physical sense, but in a sense to feed it, I know it's right. So I love that when people lead with that rather than always the science. But as you said, there's people do always ask you to back it up, which is fine, which is great. It's a great balance, and keep you, I guess, myself and my ego in check, you know, just to see all sides.
Well,
Oh, sorry.
Wrong, but I just because you're saying, when you're saying that, Junior, that there's this sense that I've had lately that, you know, it feels like a lot of people are, okay, basically what I feel is like the matrix is, it's like, it's really a real thing, you know, this whole matrix thing, like it's real. Well, it's real in the sense that there's actually something, and there's like these programs running, and we were like indoctrinated into it, and we've got these programs that are in our unconscious, subconscious, that they're like running, and it affects the way we see reality, and whatever the program is, if it's about like male, female, or whatever exactly it is, or religion, or like it's devils, you know, to be whatever, to be gay, or what, you know, whatever, like you've broken out of these, you know, the programs that we get like installed with, and the ways that we've been like functioning, you know, as so-called. And then what does it mean to be a human being? As I experience that, you like keep taking out these man-made programs or whatever, these like bot programs or whatever, you keep, and then all of a sudden, you know, life looks a lot different. And one of the ones that I've, because what you're saying too, if it's like, oh, it's wacky, it's this or whatever, this program around spirit and intuition and anything that's like the other side of the brain too, you know, the ways that people are like conditioned out of creativity also, you know, this creation, you know, like, oh, that's extracurricular, or that's a hobby or whatever, like you don't really need that, like, yeah, that's life. We are created from we've been created, this is our divinity, you know, creation, like we're created by the hands of whatever you believe this was, like God, goddess, source, created, like we're creations, like we are creative beings by our very nature. And so what I've experienced is like, because sometimes people will send me messages and they're grateful that I'm outspoken about spirit, but that's actually like a program I had to free myself from, to the point that I actually don't care. Like, I don't care if people laugh at me. I really don't actually care if somebody's ridiculing, like I actually don't care. I don't feel imprisoned by that anymore. But that's because I did the work to like get sufficiently, well, spirit did too, to get that like out of my system, to the point that I'm like, it's really okay, you know? And I think that's important for people to know, because I'll hear that too. And I know people are bridges in different ways that they are, like bridging realities or something. And that's not like, I'm not here to bridge a reality of like, you know, the matrix to feel. I'm like, I'm not having that conversation. Like, work out the matrix. Like, I'm not having that I'm not putting any energy into that conversation. It's not mine. Other people can be that bridge. I don't care to even, you know, not of it, you know, but it's true, and it's awesome. Like hearing you talk about, you're like, I'm gay and I'm whatever, and I know surely you like did some to get into the, you know, to that program that you can just like be free flowing in your energy when you say these things. And essentially we don't go into shame, because that's what it is, right? It's the shame. It's the shame. Like we get programmed, like the ways that they install this is through shame and trauma. And so like the shame and the trauma like gets it hardwired into our system. And then, you know, to undo it, like you get into, you know, like Kunal and Natalie were saying too, it's like what is blocking our, like we're beings, we come from the world of love. Like love burst us into this dimension. Love is what we are, you know, like there's no chasing love we've got to do. It's that like Rumi quote or whatever. It's just like you find what okay, Rumi said it better, but you get
You find what's blocking you from love.
Yeah,
You got it.
You said, you know, shame is another thing. Shame is put upon us. Shame is to, you know, and I can say that back in the day, I guess I was ashamed to be who I was, and because of the expectation and living up to. But all this work I've been doing to unravel that, it's been amazing, you know. For some, I've even done past life regression, and you know, trying to explain it to a friend too. For again, that quote, woo woo wacky. You know, I don't care to explain it to you. You can understand it and from what I explain it to be, but then I know what I experienced. So it's very interesting, and I can think of myself as, yes, I'm a man in this form. Previous life, I was a woman who had a family and a son and a lovely husband. For me, I break those molds of this physical appearance that you see. It's only one part of my essence and soul, which I think we all have, and you know, we many incarnations and feelings and patterns and power that we all have. It's so diverse. So to break out of that has been amazing, you know. So not living by certain box rules because others want you to, or others want you to explain who and what you are. That goes a long way, especially what's happening now, because taking people out of their norm, for them, some are, again, as we're going back to, some are fearful, some are enjoying it, but I think it needed to happen. There was only so much you could do. There was a given weight or the final straw that broke the camel's back type of scenario happening right now. So, you know, it's been great in that sense. Yeah.
It's interesting. I want to share two different things that have been like coming alive in this conversation. Junior, before you were talking about science and like how like people are like, oh, it's the science, but I think we tend to forget that science is limited by human left brain consciousness. Because like if you think about it, like epigenetics, for example, right, how like trauma gets passed down through our genes, that's like a fairly new concept that's been discovered, but that's ancient. You talk to any like ancient medicine person, they know how trauma gets passed from the ancestors. And resiliency too, because you can't forget that. That's an important piece. They always speak about like the trauma, but they forget to mention the resiliency as well. And that like that idea that science is all be all, like it's you're buying into what limits you. You know, you have to question everything. I mean, that's very scientific, in fact, to question everything and to not believe things as like just fact, you know? And so that was one thing that was like I was like, oh, I'm feeling it. And then the other bit too, Liv, that question you asked about, you know, folks who, you know, are having a hard time, like I can reflect back to a time in my life, and I was laughing, Junior, when you said you're a Scorpio, because I'm a Scorpio too, so I was like, yeah. But I don't think it's I don't think it's just a Scorpio's journey, like, so I'll say that first. But you know, there was a time in my life, I think it was like 15, 16 years ago, maybe even further, where I didn't want to live. And I Liv, when I remember when we first met, like I talked to you about that in a car ride. I have a vague memory of that. But I remember there was a time where I didn't want to live. I didn't feel, I just felt lost, really. That's like the simplest piece. And I think that's something that a lot of people feel when they have that energy, you know? And now looking back, I realized like, oh, I was riddled with entities. I was fully in the matrix and the programming. I was fully believing in it. And my soul was not in alignment. It's just like, and because I only knew that as the only reality that existed, it felt for me, how can I belong in this reality? It doesn't, we're not connecting here. There's no connection there. You know, like, I think we all have this ability. We all have, no, I don't think, I know we all have this. We have ancestors who are, you know, well ancestors, transition ancestors who prayed for us to be here. We have our ancient ancestors, as Liv, you've talked about this a lot. You know, we have our guides and our guardians. We have people that we've have soul contracts with who we've planned before coming into this life to like help us, to anchor us. We just have to like light that spark within, or remember that that spark isn't out. That's really what it is, because that spark's always lit. We just have to, like, you know, when you're in that darkness, remember that there's light. One of my, like, I have this little thing on my altar that I found in a shop or a farmer's market. It's from Bob Marley, Light Up the Darkness. And I remember, like, even in those times when I bring some Bob Marley in here. Casually. But I remember even in the darkest moments in my life, there was still a little flicker of light, you know? And like, I had love for my family that like anchored me, you know? Even though it was hard to receive it and it was hard for me to believe it, that I deserved that, but there was still something, there was some flicker. And that flicker, you know, lit up the next match and lit up the next match. And like the next thing I know, like I had these mentors coming in my life, and I have like my connection with spirit was like getting reawakened. And even though it was coming through the church, which is funny enough, you know, that was a doorway to allow me to get out of the darkness, and then using discernment, realize like, okay, this is what works, this is what doesn't work, like, you know, having that like dance. And over, you know, the years, like a long period of time of healing, different modalities of healing, you know, I had like energy healers, curanderas, therapists, mentors, like different folks would like show up in my life that would bring me back. So like another piece of myself would come back, another piece of myself, you know? And you dip sometimes. Like there's been times that even in climbing out of that hole that I was in, I would go into a depression again. And I would like, there was a period of time where I stopped listening to music. If you know me, that's crazy. That is crazy.
Really?
Yeah. Yes. I did not listen. I think it was like at least 2 years. I did not listen to music. That is insane if you know me. Yeah.
How old were you?
I know. In my 20s. I think I was like, I think it was around like 23 to 25.
Wow, you stopped listening to music.
I know. Liv knows me well. That's psychotic.
You're here. Yeah, now is, yeah, when she sings, yeah, it's like, you know, opens up the cosmos or something. Like, why did you stop listening to music?
Yeah, it's crazy. And I didn't really sing a lot. Like you know, and having to like reclaim that. It's that like looking, like, I think it's dangerous when people think that they don't have a shadow, because they don't realize like I'm all about like love and light, but don't love and light yourself out of a situation too, you know? Like the way you love and light is to go in the shadow. You bring the light into the shadow, and you bring awareness, you bring compassion, fierce love, but you have to go into the shadow. And that's something like, even though I'm not where I was once before, I still have to do that. I still have shadow. I still have my own shit. I still have wounds that I haven't tended to. And they come out in different ways, whether it's like physical manifestation, or I find myself triggered by an old story or whatever. But you still have to go do that. no one's exempt from that work unless you're like you've become like a bodhisattva. Then I think that's when you're like you're good.
Like,
As far as I'm concerned, I'm still in this avatar. I haven't quite reached that place yet.
You say that it just sparked me. At this time, I've had to go back into shadow work. I'm isolating by myself without my family and bits and bobs, and all the stuff that's coming up again. And I go back into it, I'm like, oh, hello, old friend. You know, you're back. But it's coming up to show, so I understand it, and I'm not fearful of it because it's come before. But you know, even things I thought I'd conquered, haven't conquered. Oh, it's come back up, and it's a lesson again to show you. Side note, that not me. I say my family is actually related to Bob. My mum is somewhat distant cousins of Bob Marley, so he's always great.
Nice.
He's a great architect because my friends are from Jamaica. So yeah, there's a whole hate in there. So I love that he's on your altar. He's a very wise man, and he expressed a lot of stuff
Totally.
in words, and that's why I love seeing people in history doing that. There's so many using their space to ignite people from way back, you know. And of course, music for me is a lover of mine. So as you said, Liv, it's a creativity. It's being a part. It's sharing, whether it's singing, whether it's playing something, and bringing it all together in all types of fashion of creation, art, writing, expressing. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I'm happy you picked that up too. And maybe, yeah, please, if you all will share on this too, or whatever you felt called to share, Amma. But because I experience you all also as like artists, you know, really in your different ways, and we all are, you know, in our different ways. And so, yeah, please, whatever you feel called to share, Amma. And also, like, yeah, I just speaking on creativity, if you all feel called to, you know, it's just,
I think for myself, it's the support network has been so essential in my creativity to flourish. And it's by becoming more aligned and in tune with my values, and that I've been able to get the right mentors and support and friends and people in my life. They've just started to appear in different ways. Yeah, looking back, reflecting back, I think the first step for me to really become aligned with my power and become more aligned with the things that I want to share was to really go out into the discomfort, and that meant taking a step into experiences or events or ventures that's going to create some kind of discomfort and challenge me in different ways, and break through that conditioning and take me out of my mind and more into my heart. And it's all experiential learning. So when we talk about the people around us that are saying, show me the science, essentially it's come down to the conditioning that some of us may have. I had it too at one point, before I started doing these different rituals, and I had a very conceptual understanding of it, and it's only until I started to practice them more and more and be in that space that I then started to open myself up to another realm. And it created this sensitivity in me that then allowed me to express things from a sacred space, and I understood what sacred meant. Yeah. So.
Or did you experience, I mean, I'm like just so grateful to connect with all of you, because I feel there's like some opening in the universe or something that's happening from us all connecting. But what did you, because then when you're talking, I feel like granite, and I feel this like deep rock, or I don't know, there's this whole like granite thing or something. But what did you experience? Like what's your experience of the sacred?
So I spent over like 4 months in Peru, between the Amazon and Andes, learning about the indigenous way of life, doing different shamanic rituals, and essentially it was, for me, it was all about getting back into a heart-centered space, and working with the land and practicing vulnerability and having these group ceremonies, you know. And then I continued through to Brazil. I did a vision quest and a Sundance ceremony, and I think, and then just being in that space really opened me up. But I also come from like growing up, I was always deep in my meditation. So I was fortunate enough to have parents that taught me about meditation, and I had a very deep awakening at a very young age, just from being in that heart-centered space. So yeah, yeah. But it changes. Like I go through transitions, you know, like sometimes I resist going too deep, and I want to stay light. I don't want to I don't want to be serious, you know, all the time, or do too much self-work. I want to laugh and dance and move, and that's sacred as well. You know, it's about having that fine balance between the deep process work, and then also the lightness, the humor, the fun, the adventure, being with the kids. Like I love being around kids now. Like I'm learning so much from being around kids. It's just yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing also, like, because you were fortunate, you said, to have been meditating for a long time already and stuff. And for me personally, also doing rituals and different ceremonies and diving more deeply into these indigenous ways helped me a lot in like growing, let's say. But I also believe for other people, maybe they're not like directly drawn to it. And then it's exactly what you say. Then I think it's really important that people just choose the things that are like that makes their heart sing. And it can be singing or dancing or drawing or completely something else, that I really believe that can help a lot in a lot of different ways. And then also simultaneously, what I wanted to say before already when Junior was talking, I've been experiencing this period also a lot of things coming up that I was like exactly the same. Everything you said was so similar. I was like, again? Like, why is this here again? It's already like 8 years. I'm trying to get rid of it. It's like these onion layers. Oh my gosh. And yeah, it's also something like, okay, it is a process for life, probably. But then I'm someone who tries to see like when I'm triggered. Most of the time when I'm triggered with something, then I try to see like, okay, what does this mean? Like, what does this tell about me? Where have I seen this before, maybe? And then yeah, also like I'm the same like you, Chrono, like I don't want to go too heavy, but I feel like sometimes going into the moment or the feeling, which can be heavy at the time, can bring a lot of light afterwards or something like that. So I just try to look more at these shadow sides or difficult things within me with curiosity. With the onion, I was like, what again? But now I try to like just see like, okay, what's there? Like, let's explore it a little bit more, just to approach it with love, actually, because it's part of ourselves too. And yeah, that's just what I wanted to share. Yeah.
Thank you, Amma.
It's funny, Amma, because what you were talking about like wanting to get rid of it. I've also had that thought. I'm like, oh, I want to get rid of this, and now I'm realizing like, oh, I can't get rid of this. I was like, that's not the medicine. It's integrating it and like loving it compassionately, and like, you know, that inner child that feels like, I don't know, like abandonment, for example, like bringing her close and be like, girl, I know, like shit was hard. Like you went through some stuff, and I'm not gonna let you go. You can't see my hand, but I'm holding the little girl. You know, and like and instead of pushing, because pushing away is what those wounded parts of us, like that's why they're wounded. But like when we like bring it in, like, hey, I got you. Like another layer. Okay, cool. Like come join the gang under my little chicken wing. You know.
What I find so tricky about that is that when you go through a shadow part, I can't speak for anyone else, but for me, even if it's only for one day, when you're in it, it feels like it's been happening forever. Like you've been forever in this darkness and you can't wait to get out. And it's like when you're really being conscious and present with it and you go, no, hang on. Yesterday, I was feeling on top of the world and that was only yesterday. So really, I just need to go and be present with it and just flow through it and come out the other end again. But it just feels so stretched out when it happens. It doesn't feel like it's just a moment in time. It feels like, no, I've been feeling like this for a long time. No, girl, get real.
All of my life.
Drama. Oh.
The pain.
You're like your star, Christian. I feel like that's your star being and everything. I feel like you're such a star being. I'm like, of course you would experience it like that because she's like the star being, and time is illusory, and so it like stretches out. And when you enter into it, you're in like all of eternity.
It's true. Like when I've done ayahuasca only once in my life in 2010, and I've told you this before. But part of this experience is that I went outside of the planet and I got caught inside this net around the planet. And this is also to do with this opposing energy again, you know, this sort of synthetic net that was around it. And I was in there for 100 years. Like literally. Exactly 100 years I was there. And yes.
So what happened in these 100 years?
I was just hanging out there feeling horrible and just thinking, I need another vessel. I need to get into a body. I can't just keep hanging out here. And obviously it was only a few hours, but it's so tricky, man. It just felt like 100 years.
Oh my
Christiana,
God.
you said this is during the ceremony with ayahuasca?
Yeah.
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 Time gets warped in those experiences.
But it was really 100 years. Like,
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah. No, I believe you. You enter in this is my experience with those plant medicines, is you enter into these time, like, I don't even know what they're called. Because I remember I had an experience, and I was not caught in the net, but I like completely was obliterated.
Yeah.
And I was like in this like chaos and had no anchor, like couldn't feel my body, and I was like panicking, like full-blown panic, and then
Fair enough.
realized like, oh, I guess this is my reality now. Shit, like I fucked up. Like I went too far with this one. You know,
But you can
I
also
felt like
get
infinitely.
you can also get solace from that, because
Yeah.
it's actually not true that it's eternity, and so that shows that there's always another flow gonna start again, and that and that was a great lesson for me, that when I do go through these dark patches, I understand to just surrender into them, because I know it's not staying, no matter how long it feels like it is. It's not the nature of nature to stay stuck in something.
Yeah.
Yeah, change.
Well, I would like to talk to you all for eternity.
You mean we can't? What?
We can do for eternity for the next call or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that we're all able to connect, and I feel like this is going to be so supportive for other people too. Just like, yeah, I mean, when we hear each other's hearts share, then we realize we all experience such similar things. I mean, not necessarily getting stuck in 100-year wormhole.
Wormhole, that's the word.
It was a wormhole.
That's true. Well, let's do this again sometime.
Yeah, I mean.
It was 6 a.m. But
Yeah, I mean, we can all connect again for sure. This is like so enjoyable.
I'll wake up really early for you guys.
What time is it there, Cornell? Is it
Pardon?
huh?
It's nearly nearly 10 p.m. here in the evening.
We're not that late.
Yeah.
Would you, sorry to put you on the spot, would you be open to doing like a closing something?
Who, myself?
Yeah. Meditating.
Ah,
I mean, it can
okay.
really be anything, or it can just like, you know, really whatever you feel called to say.
Okay. I'd like everyone to just close their eyes. And pay attention to breath. Take a deep breath in. And release. Take another deep breath in. And let go. As you're letting go, let go of all your tensions. Do one more time. Take a deep breath in. And let go. And now just be grateful for, I'd just like to share that I'm grateful to connect with everyone here today. And it would be nice for each one of you to also share something. In your own time.
I'm thankful to connect to you all. Getting the message from Spirit, I think this is something that will grow. This is something that will come again, something that's needed. So I feel that this is a start of something great. And I feel that it can help not only ourselves, but it can help a lot of people around us. And then going from there, we'll see what this turns into. But I'm happy to see it grow.
I want to express my gratitude to you, Liv, for bringing the bridge that you are. The beautiful bridge that bridges so much. And for calling us all together. There's not many people I would wake up at 5 a.m. for. And I'm grateful to every single one of you. My heart feels so full and like lit up. I thought I was going to go back to sleep after this, but I'm so energized. It's not happening for a long time. But I just really appreciate every single one of you and the light that you hold and your magic and all of who you are. It's like a deep pleasure to be able to connect with all of you in this way. And here we thought we'd be laughing this whole time. Thank you.
I have really the same. I have so much energy. Oh my God. I'm like, just having the energy and feeling it in my heart is like, okay, this is what is needed. Like this, like what we just did, that's just what is needed. And I'm super grateful. I honor all of you and your heart. Liv, thank you for, yeah, the invitation and calling us in. And yeah, I'm actually like, I'm full with a lot of hope. I have a lot of hope. And I'm kind of excited, like what's coming up. Thank you.
Yeah, I second that. And also, Liv, thank you for that you bring in all corners of the world with these things. I think that's really powerful. Yeah, I really love that. I've always, you know, Liv, you and I were going to organize a conference of all races a few years ago.
That's right.
Yeah, and the reason why, because I really strongly saw how each race was bringing this beautiful puzzle piece to the table and completing the entire picture. And I really love that you always honor that, Liv, with all your gatherings. You have all corners of the world represented. Thank you for that.
Thank you. I love you all so much, and my heart is like a star right now, like. So excited. I was, spirit sparks me in these ways, and I was like, God, like this. Now my head's all tingling. Anyway, I just am so grateful to all of you, and also to for all of the choices and the decisions and everything that you made in this lifetime and all the lifetimes previous to this that are, creating this energy that we're sitting with in this moment. Like, you are who you are, I do believe, because of all the choices that you've made in this lifetime and choosing to go into those dark corners, and then all the lifetimes that you've been before, which has enabled you to be the medicine that you are in this moment. And I love you all, and I'm so grateful for you. And may this be medicine to. Wait, Liz, will I say something?
Never a goodbye. It's a I'll see you later, or I'll see you soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Love you. Oh, did somebody say something?
Oh.
No. Just
Really? Myself?
okay. Love you all.
Love you.
Bye.
Love you.
Take care.